Good afternoon and welcome to the Hot South West Local Enterprise Partnerships Annual General Meeting for 2023. Welcome for those of you in the room and for anybody who is viewing this online. We've just had our board meeting for the whole partnership board, and in that there was a discussion regarding the annual report. There is going to be a slight amendment made to that annual report in relation to the forecasted outputs from the various projects which have been funded for 2025. We do recognise that there's been difficult economic climate over the last couple of years with COVID and all the other issues we've been facing, and there is a risk that some of those outputs won't meet the targets that have been included in the annual report, so we will be including something to that effect when the annual report is published. Janet, could you just read out the apologies, please?
Yeah, apologies and their proxy votes that have been given to you, Karl, David Bird and Helen Higgs. Councillor Ross White, who is absent, has given her vote to Councillor David Wone, Somerset Council. Councillor David Thomas is absent from Torbay Council, but has given his vote to Lisa Tuck. And Phil Bilac from Exeter City Council has given his proxy vote to you as well.
Great, thank you very much. We're now going to show a video, so if you'd like to play that, please.
The Local Enterprise Partnership are a multi-agency entity who represent the business interests of the Southwest, the heart of Southwest. They work together to be able to provide a narrative which will ensure that we have a coherent plan for the region that deals with the complexity of economy, place and people.
Here at Citybus, we're all about moving people. It's about connecting communities. We want to help the environment. One double-decker bus takes 70 cars off the road. We're on a mission to get ourselves to net zero, but we're also on a mission to get the communities to net zero. You know, we're really grateful to the LEP. They have been instrumental in quite a bit of new road infrastructure that benefits the bus, and we've produced outcomes for communities that otherwise would not have happened without LEP funding.
LEP doesn't just support evolving technologies, it supports the workforce. The future workforce needs that knowledge and skill in and around those advancing technologies. And so we are embedding that in our curriculum for our students so that they leave our college and they take it to businesses to help those businesses move themselves up value chains.
Leonardo, the home of British Helicopters, supports over 3,000 jobs locally, including graduate trainees, apprentices, and over 300 high-value design engineers. The Heart of the Southwest Local Enterprise Partnership supports Leonardo through its strategic engagement of the key players in the aerospace community in the Southwest.
It's having a fantastic impact on the area and encouraging SMEs to come and collaborate with us.
Science parks are vital for our economy, for our local region, because of the wider impact that they have. We help innovative STEM companies deliver extraordinary growth, high-value jobs, and as we're looking forward into a world where big companies and big organisations require carbon footprint assessments, we've created net zero carbon buildings here.
The Heart of the Southwest LEP has been instrumental in allowing us, both science parks in Devon, to access capital funding, supporting a range of sectors: marine technology companies, health technology, and a lot of advanced engineering.
Similar to the science parks, here at EPIC, we support the technological growth in the region, military, aerospace, telecoms, and some creative tech businesses. So we have a world-class innovation centre here, a prototyping suite with more than £3 million of equipment. The LEP's been critical for EPIC, both in terms of the initial investment and the funding to build the centre, but also the ongoing support we get from them for things like marketing to enable us to promote the centre.
The Centre for Future Clean Mobility is a research group working in a variety of sectors and help them go green and move away from diesel and petrol as their fuel source. So what we're doing is incredibly important for the country because we're enabling the country to go zero emission by 2030, and we're also helping businesses reduce their costs. Without the funding from the LEP, this centre wouldn't be here, and there's no way we could have done the research with the companies that we're working with, and we'd have had very little impact on our industry partners.
Gravity is a 620-acre, clean growth, sustainable, smart campus development targeted at research and development, engineering and advanced manufacturing tenants to deliver up to 7,500 permanent jobs and perhaps up to 70,000 permanent jobs for the people who live in the region. And the LEP was instrumental in making the project viable.
The way we are working together gives us a real reason to be very, very optimistic about what we can achieve together if we can continue on the same trajectory and keep this work going.
I'm the chair of the LEP, and joining me at the front of this room is David Rolfe, who's the chief executive. We would normally have David Bird with us, who is the chair of our OIC, but unfortunately for family reasons he's not able to be with us today. Just going to the minutes from last year's AGM. I don't know whether anybody's got them or read them, but if they have and they've got any points of clarification or amendment, please let me know. Obviously somebody online can't let me know, but that's fine. So there were no actions from it, so we'll take those as being approved. We will now move on to two pre-recorded sessions, one by myself giving my annual report, and then also by David Bird on the financial statement for the LEP. So if you'd like to roll those, please. Thank you. After 3 years of much prevarication, government has now confirmed that their sponsorship and funding of LEPs will cease from April 2024, and the functions of LEP should pass to upper tier local democratic institutions. It is important to state that the LEP, and me personally, have always supported the concept of greater devolution, but that where this is achieved, it is important that the private sector, along with our higher education and further education partners, continue to be at the top table in any devolved structures. The future delivery of economic development must represent an improvement from where we are today, and we must avoid any drift towards opaqueness, ambiguity, lack of accountability, or the loss of the business voice. The purpose of devolution is to deliver better and stronger local leadership of services, and within this, the economy matters a lot. An important role of the LEP over the past dozen years has been to recognise the opportunities and challenges we face as an area. Unfortunately, though, often we have had few of the levers to address these challenges and put them right. Devolution could and should help address this, but developing the economy is not a statutory responsibility of local authorities currently, despite its importance, and the local authorities face many other significant challenges, as you will be aware. So arrangements for economic development must deliver for the long term, be adequately resourced, and have the right structure and powers to make a difference. We are working with our local authorities and other partners on a plan for transition which meets government's goal of this being as soon as possible, whilst being consistent with a smooth process. We will publish more detail on this over the next few months. These long-awaited changes have been difficult for the LEP board members, working groups and staff alike, and I would like to thank all of them for their continued support, resilience and patience through this overly protracted process. We remain absolutely committed to maintaining delivery through an orderly and timely transition, although it is fair to say that the disaggregation of the heart of the Southwest geographies and our CIC status does add complexity that needs to be worked through. So what of the last 12 months, from April 22 to March 23? Well, it's been turbulent to say the least. A backdrop of war in Europe, changes in political leadership both locally and nationally, changes to and the fragmentation of local economic funding, but above all the impact of inflation on the cost of living and the cost of doing business. The delivery of capital programmes has, without question, become more difficult as costs have risen. The business support landscape is changing and reducing rapidly, with more funding directed towards pride of place rather than productivity and supporting business growth. I have no doubt that we are also seeing far-reaching post-pandemic and Brexit reset, and for many places, communities, businesses and people, things are extremely challenging. Since the publication of the government's Levelling Up white paper some 18 months ago, and the stated aim of government to widen devolution and transfer LEP functions to upper tier authorities, the LEP has focused on 5 key themes. Delivery of our legacy programmes, local growth fund, getting building fund, EU funding and services such as the Growth Hub and Careers Hub. Delivery of the Build Back Better plan and specifically its transformational economic opportunities. Delivering inclusive growth, a Growing Places Fund. Overall, I believe that progress through these challenging economic and political times has been strong. We have also seen major initiatives such as the Plymouth and South Devon Freeport, Gravity, the South West Social Mobility Commission and Great South West all take significant steps forward. Hinkley Point C has continued to progress with legacy and transition of know-how to Sizewell becoming increasingly real. The opening of the Oakhampton rail line was a real coup for our area and demonstrated how genuine partnership can work. And for the first time in over 20 years, we are seeing investment in improvements to the A303 as opposed to simply maintenance, and are on the cusp of seeing the investment in solving the Stonehenge challenge. In recent years, to support the delivery of clean and inclusive growth, we have sought to target much reduced resources to commission projects to meet our core goals, particularly in innovation or activities that contribute to net zero in digital, energy and maritime. As part of this, over the last year, we have continued to deliver our Build Back Better plan. In 2022-23, 16 local growth fund and Getting Building Fund capital projects were completed. As well as the Forder Valley Link Road completing earlier in the year and the Marsh Barton Railway Station opening in the last few weeks, it has been good to see both Intercity Place in Plymouth and the Taunton Digital Innovation Centre get to practical completion, and IAERO in Yeovil celebrated its 1 year on in July. The Further Education Digital Accelerator has been completed, providing FE colleges across the area with new state-of-the-art IT equipment to help develop skills for the future. Through the leadership of our chambers, the Hotswell Local Skills Improvement Plan has been agreed and signed off by DfE, and our Getting Building Fund capital programme is now complete. And I am proud that the recent National Growth Hub evaluation placed our very own Growth Hub in the top 5 in the UK. The Hotswell Careers Hub is now transitioning to operate separately across Somerset and Devon. The enterprise zones in Plymouth, Oceansgate, East Devon and now Gravity in Somerset are all attracting new investment and starting to use the borrowing tools available to them to put in place appropriate infrastructure to encourage and de-risk future development. The redevelopment of the Gravity site underpins our clean growth credentials and really starts to put some substance to deliver the M5A38 as UK's clean growth corridor. And the Plymouth and South Devon Freeport illustrates our area's commitment to the marine sector, increasing export and driving innovation, and the LEP has been delighted to support this project over the last couple of years. I'd like to turn now to the impact of the LEP. So far, our Local Growth Fund and Getting Building Fund programmes have created some 9,283 jobs and apprenticeships, and are forecast to create a further 13,459 by March 2025. 37,830 people have been trained in facilities that LEP funding has helped to create, and a further 24,731 are forecast to be trained by March 2025. But the impact of large-scale capital programmes is much more than what we can be delivered by March 2025, the date government require reporting to. This year we have commissioned a wide-ranging study to understand this better, looking not just at the immediate levels of job and apprenticeship creation or number of houses built, but what will the contribution of those investments will be over the next 5 to 10 years. For large-scale capital programmes using public money, it is right that this is clearly understood, and I would hope that the evaluation will help local partners in the future in their bidding into new future funding opportunities. The full report will be published later in the autumn, but early headlines show that over the period to 2034, LEP investments will generate 6.7 billion of additional GVA for the economy, allowing for inflation over the period. With an economy currently totaling 34 billion, that is a significant impact, with every £1 of LEP investment generating between £15 and £19 over the period. Although funding through LEPs has been reduced in recent years, this message is important in the context of securing resources for future growth. Ultimately, government investment here in the heart of the South West gives a good return for UK PLC and the taxpayer. So what does the future hold? Over the past 2 or 3 years, with the transition of local growth funding directly to local authorities, the tools and funding to deliver economic growth through LEPs has very much been curtailed. High streets funding, towns funds, Levelling Up and UK SPF are now all routed directly through local authorities. But with government's own recognition, this has created a patchwork of fragmented delivery challenged by rising prices. Inflation, supply chain and labour market challenges have made capital projects harder to deliver. Despite that, we have worked hard to try to secure the strategic infrastructure improvements we need. The rolling investment strategy adopted by governments prioritising metropolitan areas and solutions is no longer fit for purpose, and we will need to think much more radically to invest increasingly scarce public money wisely, including engaging the private sector in developing solutions. It is clear that the next stage of transport strategic investment will be in maintenance rather than improvement. As you will be more than aware, I am sure our highways estate is in a poor condition. Digital connectivity, particularly to hard-to-reach areas, remains a real challenge. The LEP has provided significant funding support to the CDS programme, but delivery has been very challenging and not as fast as anyone would have hoped. Much of broadband delivery by the private sector is often overbuilt, and we are unfortunately last in the queue to secure Project Gigabit, with continued real uncertainty on how this will be delivered across the hotspot area. As a result of these challenges, we have redirected significant amounts of digital funding to support complementary digital activity, largely for business innovation, such as the 4G and 5G testbed in the Smart Sound at Plymouth. Losing our young talent to other areas, poor social mobility, availability of and the affordability of housing, and delivering net zero remain very much at the core of the challenges facing our area. Through our support, we hope the South West Social Mobility Commission might start to shine a light to instigate some progress on this particular challenge, but significant structural and systemic challenges remain. We are fortunate that across the Hotspur there are high-quality FE institutions, but the academic results at GCSE level in some areas still need to improve, and we need our talented young people to build their careers here. The business community has a clear role to play in all of this, and I was delighted at the enthusiasm and desire to do just that at the joint South West Social Mobility and South West Business Council conference, where business discussed and explored what should and could be done. To me, it is vital that we make sure that our young people in our schools and colleges are aware of the many exciting and rewarding career opportunities that are already here in our area, let alone the ones that will be coming from projects like Flow and Gravity. Clearly, we are moving into a period of change, and I would like to thank everyone involved in the LEP, the board, the staff, and the partners for everything that they have done and helped us achieve so far, and looking forwards for helping to deliver a smooth and constructive transition to the future. My request of everyone is that the spirit of partnership and collaboration continue into the future, and that the voice of business continues to be listened to, welcomed and valued by all partners in shaping the economic support and investment for our area going forwards. Thank you all for listening.
Thank you, Karl. There are 3 key takeouts from this year's finance report. 22-23 spend was broadly in line with plan. income was higher than planned due to the rise in interest rates, contributing to higher than planned interest receipts on Growing Places loans and cash held. In common with previous years, the 22-23 budget was agreed with an assumption of zero government funding, as confirmation had not been provided at that point. In the end, government did award grant funding, which also led to higher income. Even prior to government's announcement on the future of funding for LEPs from April 24, we have seen an increasing reliance on other sources of income in recent years. The majority of funding for the 23-24 budget is from the Growing Places Fund, with government grant consisting of just 10% of income. 4 years ago, government grant for the LEP was £588,000. In 23-24, it will be £250,000. Given this trend, we have continued the policy of recent years of building and sustaining a reserve. This enables the LEP to plan future activity even though other sources of income have reduced. Although strictly speaking a dormant company, the LEP has operated to the going concern principle. The reserve at the year end means the LEP continues to meet this benchmark, which will support the transition process. I'll now go through the numbers in more detail. As mentioned, government grant funding continued the downward trend of recent years from the high point of 2020-21. Last year's interest from the Growing Places Loan Fund provided a higher level of income than previous years. During the year, we made some accounting changes to simplify LEP finances. In prior years, the LEP has operated a capacity projects reserve made up of top slice from Local Growth Fund and Getting Building Fund, and interest on Growing Places loans. This reserve enabled the LEP to provide match funding for the Growth Hub, the Careers Hub, and to fund work such as supporting SMEs to access the supply chain opportunities around Hinckley. This latter programme enabled Heart of the Southwest SMEs to secure 35 million of contracts from Hinckley. To simplify internal counting, in 22-23 this reserve was closed and the balance brought into the LEP's general reserve. Point 3 on the slide as 354,000 of income. When I discuss the current year's budget, you will see a specific allocation has been made to skills, business support, and a potential programme to develop future board members. As such, the LEP will continue to match fund the Careers Hub, the Growth Hub, and other important projects in 23-24. Overall, costs reduced year on year as activity such as Growth Deal and the previous Enabling Fund for Enterprise Zones started to end. The Enabling Fund was established in 2019-20, initially to accelerate delivery of the Enterprise Zones through repayable loans. Gravity were awarded £150,000 and Oceansgate £60,000, and repayments will be made over the years through to March 25. Last year, the LEP invested the full allocation of £35 million Getting Building Fund programme. Previous Local Growth Fund awards totaled £197 million, and of that, the LEP carries spend of £5.7 million into the current year and a further £3 million into next year. This comprises 6 projects, the largest of which is rural broadband. Local Growth Fund spend must be completed by December 24 as agreed with government. Finally, the LEP's Growing Places Loan Fund continues with repayments out to September 2029. At the end of the year, the LEP recorded a surplus of 1.3 million, which, as per previous years, was added to reserves to cover future operations. Turning to our reserves, as outlined in previous AGMs, to counter the drop-off in top slice from capital funding and uncertainty over future government grants, we have built a reserve from which to fund future LEP operations. The opening reserve going into last year was 1.268 million. This was split across the General Reserves account, covering LEP operating costs, and the earmarked reserves account, which is notionally allocated to specific projects which have yet to be completed. Last year, 883,000 was drawn from the General Reserve to fund LEP running costs, and this together with 1.3 million surplus from the previous slide gave us 1.16 million of General Reserves at the year end. The earmarked reserve covers specific projects in year. In 22-23, these included 125,000 of match funding for the Careers Hub, studies into the floating offshore wind opportunity, and work to flesh out the LEP's approach to inclusive growth. The earmarked reserve also includes provision to cover potential LEP redundancy costs. As at the 31st of March 23, total LEP reserves totalled 1.498 million. 23-24 income is heavily reliant on interest earned on the Growing Places Loan Fund. Clearly, this introduces added risk for the LEP in the event of default, and we continue to monitor the loans and repayments closely. Government funding for this year was confirmed at the time of setting the budget, which was helpful. Finally, on the income side, financial pressure amongst our local authority partners and unitarisation in Somerset means that the amounts of match funding are reduced on the previous year. Point 2 on the slide highlights the reporting change between years I briefly referred to earlier. In 22-23 and prior years, LEP activity in skills and business support was funded from Capacity Projects Reserve, made up of Growth Deal and Getting Building Fund top slice and Growing Places revenue. As mentioned previously, this reserve was closed at year end and the balance brought into the General LEP operational reserve. That is shown here as the 354,000 capacity projects transfer. Previously, the LEP had funded projects such as the Growth Hub or nuclear supply chain through this route. This year, Growth Hub match funding, other business support work, Careers Hub match funding, and potential future board members programme will be funded from General LEP expenditure. Note that the budget was developed in March 23, well before the government's announcement on the future funding of LEPs. With 23-24 expenditure, these key areas now covered through the LEP operational budget. This change gives rise to spending which is significantly higher than previous years. Finally, to balance the budget, a £343,000 payment to reserves is anticipated, which results in a forecast operational reserve on the 31st of March 24 of 1.542 million. In conclusion, this means the LEP continues to meet the going concern benchmark, which will help support the transition process.
I'd like to thank David Bird as chair of our OIC and for all the members of OIC who have put in a lot of work over the years and particularly last year. So I'd like to thank all of those in the room and those who aren't here as well. Now moving on to the adoption of the accounts. As in previous years, the accounts, the company is a dormant company, so the accounts are very slim with 0 numbers on the balance sheet, and those people in the room, I've got a number of proxy votes, but are we happy to approve these accounts? Thank you very much. We now move to any questions. We didn't have any questions in advance. Have we had any questions online? Nope. Okay, are there any questions from anybody in the room? No? Okay. If anybody does have a question that they think about, whether you're online or in the room, if you'd like to submit that to us, we will endeavour to respond to that in writing, should you have any. I think that wraps us up for today and this year. So thank you very much for attending. If you've been online, I hope you found it useful and interesting. We look forward to continuing the work of LEP until next spring, maybe beyond. But thank everybody for their work over the years. I know some people have been here for a relatively short time. Some of us have been here for a bit longer. And it's good to see that we are having some positive impact from all the work we've been doing. So thank you and good night.